Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerd Dad's Gaming Lair. Tonight, I'm going to play Microsoft Flight Simulator. This just released on Game Pass a couple of days ago. Um, be forewarned, I've never flown an aircraft. I've never even played this flight simulator before in previous versions. I do not have all the proper equipment. So some people get really crazy with this game, and like they get um, the yoke and the throttles and all that stuff as like simulator equipment. I don't have any of that. What I am going to be using, however, is my handy dandy Stadia controller and a keyboard to accomplish most of it. I've got some of it mapped. I think it'll work. But anyway, we're going to jump in. So this is the flight training menu. Because I've never flown an aircraft before, I have done a couple of these. So I did the basic controls and the attitudes and instruments. They're pretty straightforward. So now, I'm going to put my audio on so you can hear the nice background music Microsoft has for this. Now we're going to do some takeoff and level flight training. Should be interesting. It's running back there. Yeah, okay. Alright, so I'm going to taxi into position to take off, manage my attitudes and power to fly at different speeds, accelerate, decelerate to a level altitude, and refine my aircraft handling skills. We're going to be flying from Sedona to Sedona at 5,100 feet. Kitty, get out of here. My cat likes to wait till I'm streaming to get up on top of everything for some reason. Alright. Go ahead and start this. So yeah, we're gonna, and it takes forever to load. Like, my hard disk utilization is like 100% when this thing loads up. This was like 200 gigs worth of files. And actually, while this is loading, give me a second. I'm gonna get my cat out of here. She's always making a mess back here. Daenerys. This is the culprit, Daenerys. Say hi, Daenerys. Hello. Get her out. That way we don't have to worry about her messing with cables and things while we're flying. Okay. 55 knots. So I've got to get up to 55 knots and 75 knots on the way up, it looks like. That should be an interesting time. We'll see. Alright, it's almost done loading. It does take a million years to load things in this game. Alright. 0-degree runway slope. We are ready to fly. Here's my Cessna.
There's an old saying I like. A mile of road will take you a mile. A mile of runway will take you anywhere.
Alright.
Taking off isn't hard, but there are a few key points to remember. First, we always take off into the wind, which won't be an issue on a calm day like today. Second, before we enter a runway, we always make sure it's clear.
Alright. Control num delete. What is that? I don't even know what that is. So I can hold S to focus on the runway.
No cross traffic. Go ahead and taxi into position.
Okay,
the
so
rudder pedals should make steering the plane pretty easy.
Okay, so I've got my rudders, and I can show you. So I'm just gonna show you around the cockpit. Like, they've done a really crazy job of like mapping out everything in detail about these aircraft. It's crazy. Like, there's my rudder back there. You see it going with my joystick. Or I got a map to my bumper pads, actually, on this controller. Alright, I still know what num delete is. That doesn't make any sense. Control delete doesn't do anything. Ah, there we go. Found it. It's the delete on the number pad. Alright. Stop aircraft in the runway. So I'm gonna up my RPMs a bit on the engine. And we're going to start taxiing out. Gonna steer out with the rudders. Ah! Alright. Get to the center of the runway. Hit my brakes. Alright.
Alright, let's do this. Apply full power and I'll walk you through the takeoff as we go.
Oh, alright. Let's get to it. I'm gonna crank her up.
Use your rudders to stay on the center line and keep pushing power until you reach 55 knots. Good. Now gently pull back on the yoke. Line up the top of your instrument panel so it's a couple inches above the horizon. That'll pitch us up and set a good climb attitude.
Way easier than I would imagine it would be.
And we're airborne.
Way
Focus on
simpler.
flying straight. Use your rudders to keep the runway heading of 210 degrees. Maintain 75 knots, and we'll reach our target altitude of 5,500 feet in no time.
Ah, my rudders are really terrible. Okay, so I gotta get my attitude straight here. My rudders make this a real hard time because I don't have the right stuff for this. Alright, 210, that's my heading. Based on the gauge down there at the bottom, not quite all the way to the left. Climb to 5,500 feet. Maintain 75 knots. I don't know where my airspeed is. Oh, there it is. I'm doing 60 knots right now. Alright, climbing. Ah! Attitude's getting a little off. I really need to map my rudders differently. My rudders are way too janky right now. And kind of manipulate it with my roll. So my attitude meter is kind of right under where it says ASXGS. You'll see that I'm just a little bit above level on my attitude. What, son? What are you doing? I'm flying, buddy. You can't try it right now. Alright, so we're coming up on 5,500 feet. And then we're going to settle out the attitude.
Ah, 5,500 feet. A nice, safe altitude for part 2 of our lesson.
Okay, we're going to back off the RPMs a bit.
Straight and level flight. First step here is adjusting our attitude.
Yeah, a little bit. Alright, there we go. Alright, so we're facing down again. I really need it to level off. I don't want to pull it too far. Alright. So I'm on the right heading still. I just can't get my altitude to maintain. It may be the way I have my controller mapped. So when I put it back to center, I think center is just a little bit off, actually. Let's see if I can't fix that real quick in the controls. Bear with me. It's not really made to use a Stadia controller, so we're gonna do my ailerons. Let's do essentials, ailerons left. That is, hold on, cancel. So right now I'm doing ailerons axis is the Z axis, that's up down. So that is joystick L axis Z. So yeah, actually that's my elevators. Let me elevator down and up. Elevator down. Elevator down is this. Validate. Elevator up is this. Validate. And we're gonna clear this. Clear current input. Validate. Fine save. Go back. Resume. Okay. So now I should be able to there we go. I should be able to set it and it stay. I'm gonna give it a little bit more power because I feel like we're drifting down. I'm losing altitude. Back off the power just a hair. Alright. That should be pretty close to cruising. It's real touchy with the throttle controls. And I have those mapped to the D-pad, so they're not super accurate. Okay, that should be good. So we're going to look around while we're up here. We're flying over Sedona. They did a really crazy job of recreating the the surroundings. Like, it's really, really accurate. We're cruising at 100 knots, which is kind of on the high end, if you'll notice by my gauge down in the top left of my gauge cluster down here. And I'll look. So like that one over there in the corner in the top left, that's my speedometer, basically. Forgot what it's called in an aircraft. But yeah. Alright, we're cruising. I think we're a little bit over when it comes to I need to drop down maybe. Maybe that's what they want me to do. I'm kind of going a little bit. I'm a little high. 5,500 feet. Oh, no. Not what I meant to do. I stalled it. No, pull back. Ah, there we go. Okay.
We're in a cruise attitude, pushing max power. To stay level at our target altitude, let's start by easing the throttle back to 1,800 RPMs.
Okay, so we're at 55-ish, 54. My altimeter. Alright, let me get to 55. Okay, we're at 55-ish 100 right there. And now it wants me to... It wants me to drop my RPMs, which is over there. Too much. 1,800. backing off the throttle and try to keep my attitude leveled out.
You've probably noticed, to maintain altitude, you need to pitch the nose up. You could just keep pulling on the yoke to hold steady, but that's not really a precise means of control. Probably better to adjust your trim wheel until you don't need to push or pull on the yoke. Drag the trim down when you need to set the nose up. Drag it up to set the nose down.
Well,
Try
what's my
adding
trim
trim
wheel?
to keep us at 5,500 feet without increasing throttle. If you feel our pitch slipping and need to
Number
get back
7
to
or
the
number
proper
1?
attitude, don't worry. Just pull on the yoke, then dial in the right trim.
Okay, so this trim thing, or this, that's not working. We're gonna remap that. That's horrible. It's way too janky, man. Essentials. Let's get my elevators back back to the way they were. I liked it much better. Clear current input. Cancel. Clear current input. Cancel. We're talking about elevators. Elevators is this axis. Validate. Reverse the axis. Let's clear current input. Validate. Clear current input. Validate. Okay. That will be good. And then I can set my trim wheels. So now that now that I have proper control of the aircraft, and I'm at 1800. Okay, we're gonna climb up a bit to 55, and then we're gonna set the trim wheels. All right, I gotta maintain my attitude with one hand and use my number pad with the other. We can't climb very fast right now because I don't have a whole lot of RPM. Give myself a little bit more fuel. Keep it right there. Alright, we're at 5,000. I can climb a bit. It's going to be real slow. Alright. I'm going to give myself a little more power if I can climb. There we go. $51. 52. We're getting there. 53. Alright, 54, we're very close. Alright, I'd say we're close enough to 5,500. Alright, we're setting the trim. Oh, that messed me up there. Alright, now. It's about right. We'll drop some RPMs.
The way I was taught, when you adjust the trim, you make rough changes at first to remove pressure on the yoke, then small adjustments to find the perfect setting to keep your desired attitude. That's the key to straight and level flight.
There we are.
It saves you from constantly pushing or pulling on the yoke. And that gives you more time to enjoy the ride. If you want more practice using the trim, go for it. Whenever you're ready to pass the controls, I'll be here.
Alright, so now she's gonna let me fly on my own. I think that worked real well. The trim is set. We've got good attitude. I feel like I'm listing to the left a bit, but it could just be my airspeed. Maybe a light breeze from the side there. Alright, I think we're good. Control Alt X.
Okay, I have control. Hope you enjoyed the lesson.
So now we know how to use the trim. And take off. Landing, that ought to be disastrous. That can't be good. 65 knots to land, huh? And it's going to be really hard to do all this stuff. What are you doing, buddy? Close the door, don't let Kitty in. Don't let Kitty in, close the door. She's not in here, buddy. You gotta close the door so she doesn't get in here. Alright, this is gonna take a while to load. Now I think this is gonna be significantly harder than taking off. The landing may be rough. We shall see. Put it up there, son. Okay. Runway slope 1 degree. We're in Sedona again.
My first instructor used to say the best part of flying is landing in one piece. The man was a terminal pessimist, but he wasn't wrong. Today, you're in charge of bringing us in for a safe landing.
Ooh, no.
We've got
Terrible
cleared
idea.
for a straight-in approach, so we don't have to complete the standard traffic pattern. And I've already set us up in landing configuration at 65 knots with 10 degrees of flaps and idle power. We're on the glide slope now. Maintain speed around 65 knots. Change your pitch if you need to, and keep your aim point on the runway number. When you're targeting the runway number, you want to keep it steady in your sights. If it looks like the number's moving up in your windscreen, you're coming in low. You'll need to add a bit more throttle to get back on the slope. If it looks like the number's moving down in your windscreen, well, then you're too high. You'll need to add flaps to increase your rate of descent, but you'll also need to push forward and trim to change your attitude and maintain the same speed.
Alright, press F8 to extend my flaps for landing. Flaps extended. Alright, so we're getting lined up with the runway here. We're pulling out of a roll. Looks like we're 2 degrees into a roll. Coming in at 5,000 feet. $55 knots. Don't know where the runway is right now. It's over there to my right. Okay. Okay, altitude too low. Pull up on full throttle. Okay, we're gonna fix my altitude and attitude here. I guess I was already in control of the aircraft. He didn't tell me that. Alright, so the runway is behind us. We'll go out here a ways.
SOP dictates we go around and try our approach again. Don't worry, you'll get it with practice.
Alright, we'll restart. I didn't realize I was in control of the aircraft during that. It never said that. I put my flaps down. I was in a roll. I thought that was fine. I'm going to have to assign my flaps too. I know I've got my landing gear assigned to Y. Okay, try it again.
My first instructor used to say the best part of flying is landing in one piece. The man was a terminal pessimist, but he wasn't wrong. Today, you're in charge of bringing us in for a safe landing.
Okay, so...
We've got clearance for a straight-in approach, so we don't have to complete the standard traffic pattern. And I've already set us up in landing configuration, at 65 knots with 10 degrees of flaps and idle power. We're on the glide slope now. Maintain speed around 65 knots. Change your pitch if you need to, and keep your aim point on the runway number. When you're targeting the runway number, you want to keep it steady in your sights. If it looks like the number's moving up in your windscreen, you're coming in low. You'll need to add a bit more throttle to get back on the slope. If it looks like the number's moving down in your windscreen,
see the number.
then you're too high. You'll need to add flaps to increase your rate of descent, but you'll also need to push forward and trim to change your attitude and maintain the same speed.
Okay, got my flaps out. Alright. Let's see, I don't know what it's talking about runway number. Try to get over here. All right, coming up on it.
Keep your aim point on the runway threshold. When you're 10 feet above the runway, it's time to flare. Once we pass the threshold, shift your aim point to the end of the runway. Then, pull back slightly on the yoke to aim the nose just above it.
Okay. Ah! This is scary.
Okay, we're past the threshold. Start the flare. Keep pulling back slowly. Let the plane settle onto the runway. Don't push it down, but don't let it start climbing. Nice. Now apply the brakes to slow us down and bring the plane to a stop.
There's no way that was correct.
Great job. As they say, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. But if you can use the plane the next day,
that was terrible. There's no way that was a decent landing.
Even for seasoned pilots. Trust me.
No way.
Don't hesitate to practice. After all, that's what we're here for, right?
I mean, sure, I landed. Alright. Let's go with flight pattern training. I don't know what that means, flight pattern, but we're going to find out shortly. Some jamming music they got on the background of this thing. Yeah, my hard drive is running like 80% utilization right now. It's loading all this stuff. Okay. Crosswind, downwind, base, and final. So I'm going to take off, it looks like, make a circle, and then come back and land. Okay. Kind of scared. Approaching an airport for landing, the traffic pattern should be entered at a 45-degree angle to the downwind leg. What does that mean? To land, the airspeed ready to descend or reduce such that the plane descends low enough. Yeah, left-hand pattern, all your turns will be to the left. That makes sense. Pretty straightforward, self-explanatory, I hope. Alright. I would hate to be like an aircraft training instructor and let, like, pilots learn how to fly airplanes. That seems terrifying. Letting someone control this stuff. Alright.
Let's be honest, no one likes going around in circles. Unless you're a pilot training on traffic patterns. Sedona's standard traffic pattern follows a 1,000-foot altitude around the main runway.
Yes.
By the time we're through here, you'll know how to complete the full run from takeoff to landing. So let's get started.
Brakes are off. Let's take off. Throttle up. Alright, we're almost to the right amount of knots. And we're up.
When we're up, keep us aligned with the runway and climb to 5,400 feet. We're going for a left-hand traffic pattern.
Alright, let's get up there. We're almost to 54.
Once we reach altitude, you're going to start turning left 90 degrees toward a 122-degree heading.
Okay.
Okay, we're in the pattern. Get ready to enter the crosswind section. Good. Keep going till you reach the traffic pattern altitude of 5,700 feet.
Turn left for the down leg.
Left turn downwind. When the runway appears at the halfway point of your wing strut, you'll know you're at a good glide distance.
Okay. Come out of my roll. I'm a little high.
We got the wind at our back now. We're on the right track. Lower your nose to a cruise attitude and reduce power to 2,100 RPMs. Once your speed is in the white arc, add 10 degrees of flaps to prep us for landing.
At 10 degrees of
Now's
flaps.
Now's not a bad time to check if the runway is looking good. And it probably goes without saying, always watch out for other planes entering or exiting the pattern. We're gonna fly past the end of the runway here. Keep going until you see it at a 45-degree angle behind you.
Okay.
That's your cue to turn left again, onto the base leg.
Alright, so I'm going to get to this navigational marker. keep this heading. It's not too bad. .3 nautical miles. 0.2 nautical miles.
All right, reduce power to idle to start losing altitude and maintain cruise attitude. Keep an eye on the runway as we get ready for our final turn. That'll also keep our speed around 65 knots.
Alright, and then I'm going to want to apply some flap.
There we go. The runway's in full view. Make sure to keep the plane centered on approach.
There's
if you're
my
too
runway.
High, add flaps. Too low, add power to maintain the glide path.
Okay, I've got my runway in sight. And brakes. A little steering at the end.
Way to stick the landing. Now just apply the brakes to slow your roll. And make sure you don't stop on the runway, of course.
Well, I did
If
that.
other planes are looking to land, we've got to move. Take one of the taxiways on the right.
Alright, there we go. My bad, I stopped on the runway like a total noob.
Good job. As an old instructor said to me, not only did you not die, you're really learning to fly.
Here we go. That wasn't too bad. I thought it'd be a whole lot more difficult. First solo flight. Terrifying. I wish it would tell me how much flap I added. So I hit the flap button a minute ago, and I just I nearly stalled the plane from the flaps. I don't know where it indicates how much flap degree I have. I know it asked for 10 degrees of flaps, but what does that even mean? I don't know. All right, let's see what first solo flight does here. Okay, so we're going to take off, crosswind downwind base final, sure. And basically do the exact same thing we just did. Alright. Let me see. Can we do this on our own without the instructor? Maybe. Maybe. I've found some new buttons that I think I need to put flaps on my controller. I need to put the brake release on here, and I need to put the brake on here. I also think I'd like to put the attitude trim on here as well. That would be super helpful. I think. Alright.
It's time. your first solo flight. I'll be watching from the ground in radio contact if you need me, but something tells me you won't. Your goal is to complete Sedona's left-hand traffic pattern on your own. Remember what we covered in our previous sessions, and you'll be just fine. Good luck. See you on the other side.
All right, let's throttle up. All right, getting up to full throttle. 40 knots. 50 knots, and we're off. And we climb. Gonna maintain this heading as much as I can. $5,000 feet. $5,200. $53. $5,400. Back off the throttle a hair. Start banking into a left-hand turn. Start looking for the airport in my left view here. 2-degree roll. Alright, there's the airport. Come out of my roll. Oh, I need a little bit more. There it is. Alright. Out of my roll. I've got decent altitude. My trim is good. Alright, we're going to pass the airport completely. Hate to be the people that live underneath me right now. Kind of terrifying. Ah, no, I was rolling the wrong way. I let the stick go a little bit. Alright. I'm going to pass the airport and then make my left-hand turn for the base leg. And then start dropping my speed. A little bit further. Alright, turn left for base leg. Turn left for final approach. 2-degree roll to the left. Start dropping my speed down. Where is the airport? There it is. Okay, I am way out of line for the runway. I'm going to come up on it all kinds of funny like. But I am going to go ahead and deploy flaps. See if I can fix this with a little bit of There we go. That's not bad. I think I can do it. Coming in a little crooked, but I think we can make it work. We should touch down in a second. Ah, I'm off the runway though. Deploy some brake. And taxi. Over to here.
There's always room for improvement, that's life, right? But you did it all on your own. You're on your way to becoming one hell of a pilot.
No lies. I didn't die, so there is that. Alright. Navigation. Let's navigate. It's actually a whole lot simpler than I would think it would be for the complexity of the gauges and controls in this game. It's really not that difficult. Now, I know this would be a lot more terrifying in real life, being that you're literally in a flying tube. You know, if you make one mistake, you could die, and that's not happening in the simulator, obviously. But it feels like it's a pretty authentic experience flying. There's a lot to pay attention to. A lot of new terminology for someone who doesn't know a lot about aircraft. So I think it's pretty realistic for as much as you can get without learning to get your pilot's license. And the fact that you can fly in a bunch of different planes on real runways with real weather conditions in real time is pretty cool in this game. And it's free on Game Pass, so there's no reason for you to not check it out. Now, I will say you need like 200 gigs of free space on your hard drive to just give this a shot. So if you have the room and you have a machine capable of it, this is a Risen 7 1700X with RTX 2060 Super graphics, and it handles it just fine. It's handling that and the stream continuously, so I think that's plenty. It has 16 gigs of memory. I would recommend maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, it's doing just fine to play this game on pretty high graphics settings, actually. All right, still in. Let's see about navigation. How do I navigate things?
I've always said, flying is freeing. Open skies, endless abilities. But to fully enjoy it, you need to be prepared.
So from Sedona to
We're
Flagstaff.
going to focus this lesson on navigation prep and procedures. The fundamentals of getting from point A to point B. Step 1, putting some distance between us and the ground.
All right. My brakes are off. Let's throttle up. Okay. We're full throttle. Let's get some speed and get some air here. 40 knots. 50 knots. And we're up. Maintain the heading of the runway, which is 21 here. We'll get up to 5,500.
All right, we're off. Now keep climbing around the airport till we reach 5,800 feet.
All right, so we're going to climb into a 2-degree bank. All right, climbing. We're at 55. I'm going to put us in another 2-degree bank. Oh, we climbed to 58.
It goes without saying, but good navigation starts with good departure prep. Let's set up the aircraft for the first leg of your trip. Attitude? Check. Now for your heading. When you need to set and maintain a heading, you'll want to rely on your heading indicator. Compasses are prone to errors, especially during turns or while accelerating or decelerating. Go ahead and position your plane above the airport.
Departure position this way. We're losing altitude. Pull up a bit. Apply that roll. Overcorrect a little bit there.
One last bit of departure prep. We need to validate the time. That's a fancy way of saying start the clock.
Alright, start. Navlog stopwatch.
On the navlog, you can see our next waypoint, Munns Park, is at a 41-degree heading about 5 minutes away. Navigating is
41-degree
basically flying a given heading for a given amount of time. Sometimes you deviate, but if you track the time flown from your last known position, you'll always have at least a range for your current position.
So 41, 33.
We all know speed can increase or decrease depending on the wind. That's why at your next waypoint you'll want to compare your estimated time en route with the actual time flown. Validate your estimate and your progress.
That seems super overcomplicated. Okay. So we've got our heading. So 41. We're climbing just a little too much. I'm going to decelerate a bit. Okay. Looks like the trim. It's real finicky. Let me trim up a bit. Keep us from decelerating too fast. Alright. That's about it for the trim. Alright. So, let's see, 41, 8 nautical miles. And then we're going to go to 343, which should be to our left, but not by much, actually. Alright. 5 more nautical miles. This isn't actually too hard at all. I don't know how much of this, like when you're not doing instructor-led things, I don't know how much of this is actually the case. I can't imagine it's too much different if you set your own flight plans than it is, you know, like this. So, okay, I think I'm off the heading a bit, so I'm going to correct my heading. That's better. That looks like a 41-ish to me. Set my trim up. We don't drop altitude. We're just going to fly through this valley, it looks like. Alright, move my heading a little bit further to the left. Because I'm about 50 degrees right now. Alright. So I should be there in 30 seconds. Somewhere around that. And then we're going to, I think, pull left and change the heading 343. I'm going to have to pull up and gain some altitude here. Get out of this valley. Come up to 6,500 feet. Yeah, it would be totally cool, like Colton, if a lot of people do play this game with like in-game air traffic controllers. I would love to get to that point where I'm actually playing with a live air traffic controller, communicating all that stuff to me. That'd be really cool. Buzz the tower. I don't know if anybody's seen that video on YouTube. It's pretty good. Alright, so I'm gaining a little bit of altitude. We're coming up on 7,000 feet. I'm about 1 nautical mile away from my next navigation turn. I am definitely... I'm about a minute behind schedule according to my clock. So I'm going to wait till I make the turn and set the heading before I set the clock next time.
According to the nav log, we've got one more stop. Flagstaff Pulliam Airport.
Okay.
An easier way to navigate is to follow identifiable landmarks like highways. And just so happens we have one below us.
Where? Ah, okay. We can do that. So instead of using a heading, we are going to follow this highway at 7,000 feet, 6,800 feet actually, 69. Alright, I think my trim is pretty well set. I'm about to bank into a turn here to follow the highway. My trim might be a little bit low. Alright, bank to the right. It doesn't make any sense to follow a highway, honestly. I mean, you're in the air, right? Isn't the whole point to get from point A to point B the fastest way possible? And that does not include following a highway. But Alright, I guess if it's things people do. Seems like I'm really not that far off the ground. That's kind of concerning. Alright, I'm going to restart stopwatch because it's going to tell me to. Let me get to a flat attitude real quick and make sure I'm not dropping too much altitude. There we go. There's so many buttons to set. It's a ridiculous... So, like, actually, when you work on the controls of this game, when you're mapping controls, instead of giving you a list, it gives you a search box. Because there's so many controls that you cannot view them all. So you have to search for the ones you're looking for. It's ridiculous. Alright, so the airport is ahead, 7 miles. I'm going to set my trim. But I stopped dropping altitude there. There we go. We're going up a bit. I'm going to let myself climb a hair, actually. Not a whole lot, but just a little. I feel like I should be further above the highway than this. Alright. Just a hair over 7,000 feet. And a dead heading. Let's see, that's supposed to be 343. I would say we're pretty darn close to a 343 heading right now. Alright. Now we just, I guess, wait until I get to the airport. And then we'll see if I can land at this airport. Good luck. I want to know about autopilot already. That seems way easier. It would do this for me. All I should ever have to do is take off and land. I don't think Arizona's this green. I call BS on that. Alright, 4 nautical miles. And maybe just a little bit off my heading here. Alright. Put us back on heading. Now we just continue to wait. So I guess this is kind of cool. I mean, if I was driving a car, I'd have to pay attention. This one, I'm just looking at a stopwatch. Now, what does that gauge that just went sideways do? I bet that's my airport gauge. I bet that tells me where the airport is based on their beacons. Yep. I'm close enough to an airport to be picking that up, I suppose. So, according to this, the airport's going to be on the right. Which it is, but not by very much. Yeah, I can't use copyright music, babe. If I could, it would totally be appropriate. I wish that I could. I'm a little bit off the heading again, but I will have plenty of time to line that up when we get closer to the runway. I've climbed about 500 feet since the last time I set the trim, but I'm okay with that. I wonder, so this is 21 nautical miles. I don't remember what the physical distance between nautical miles and actual miles is. This seems like I could have driven here in a car just as fast. Alright. We're definitely getting there. I have a bit of a crosswind, it looks like.
As you close in on Flagstaff Pulliam airspace, next step is setting up to enter the traffic pattern.
Okay.
We've got clearance to enter the downwind leg and land on runway 21. Keep your attitude, then follow the standard pattern.
Oh, where is the airport? Off to my right. Okay, the downwind turns over there. I really hope it keeps these nav markers for me. I really hope it does. Okay, so my airport's over there to the right. I'm gonna bank just a hair. I don't want to climb too much. I think I'm plenty high enough for a small airport. So I'll try to keep my attitude about the same. On bank 1 degree to the left. Try to get in here a little bit. I nosed up too much. Alright. Okay, that looks
Lower your
good.
nose to a cruise attitude and reduce your power.
$1,800. I'm gonna come out here so I can get a nice wide turn at the airport. I'm gonna start dropping some altitude. Not too rapidly. Hopefully. Alright, yeah, we're dropping about, I don't know, 5 meters per second, or 5 feet per second. Gotta get below 7,000 here. Alright. Base turn's coming up, and then I'm going to pull left. The airport's behind us. I'm gonna pull left. I know what I'm doing. I don't need your nav marker now. I don't want to drop too much altitude yet till I find the airport. Airport's way back there. I'm gonna need more roll. I see it. See the beacon. I feel like I'm really low, but oh, so this is not relational to the ground, is it? 7,000 feet doesn't mean 7,000 feet above the ground. Dropping too much altitude. I'm gonna wind up in these trees if I don't watch out. Totally missed the turn for the base leg. I bet I fail this. There's my runway. I don't like the fact that it has red lights, though. That typically isn't a good thing. I think I'm landing the wrong direction on the runway. Hey, but we're gonna land. Flaps. Speed reduction. Nose down. I don't know, that's runway 21. Okay. Pull up. I should touch down.
You weren't really supposed to land there. It's well done, don't get me wrong. Just not what was expected. At this point, I think it's probably best if we start the lesson over.
No! Okay, no. I'm not doing it. That's good enough. I landed, gosh darn it. Don't knock me for my landing. It's not my fault that I didn't know. The plane did not crash. Nobody died. I landed on the runway beautifully. Not my fault. Anyway. Well, alright. That's it. Microsoft Flight Simulator. We may play some more of this. I don't know. It's kind of I don't know if this is so much for a streaming thing. If you guys like the stream, let me know. It could be a little bit boring on your end. Because you're just watching me fly around in an airplane. And I'm bad at it. So, anyway, let me know if you liked it. If you did, we may do it some more. Anyway, be sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/NerdDadsLair, and we will catch you nerds later.